Hey guys, Corey here with a new Hip Kit Club scrapbook process video for you. Today I'm using the July 2018 kits. I love these kits because the colors are light and bright and totally summery, and I just think that they're gorgeous. So I'm super excited to be able to use these kits again. Believe it or not, I'm actually not going to even use a beach picture. I'm using a picture of me and my daughter when we were walking into town. So super fun. Although I've got lots of beach pictures coming, I figured I needed to go ahead and do this other photograph. Plus, in all fairness, I have not edited like anything that's on my big camera, so I am taking photos straight off my phone. But you know what, they work and I love them, and they're all on my list of photos to scrapbook anyhow, so I'm super pumped to just be able to get to use this one today. So how I'm doing this page is I'm just going to use these cool frames that came in the July kits, and then I'm also going to use hand stitching to kind of create a a pattern background inside these little frames. So I knew I wasn't going to use these frames in a traditional sense of putting a photo underneath them and or whatever. So I figured what it would be great though is to kind of border embellishments. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stitch hearts into some of these frames for my pattern background. And because a heart is kind of a detail that would be difficult for me to do with my sewing machine, as well as the space is really small, hand stitching is going to be the way for me to go on this one. So you guys can just see how that turns out. So I got my frames all laid out. I know where my photograph's going to go. And so I got out these supplies. I have this like foam pad thing and just a little paper piercer and my floss. And then I'm just going to use this punch and then also some freehand drawing to draw hearts so that I can get some unique shapes to use on my background. So once I have these drawn, they're all a little different. They're all a little wonky, but that's okay with me. I'm just going to put them in there, and then I'm using my paper piercer to actually pop out the, to get my holes, I'm sorry, for the hand stitching of all these little hearts. So there's one. I've got a smaller one over here. And then you'll actually see I use a little heart from the kit as one of the guides as well. That's actually from the kit, that one right there. And just going to go ahead and make my holes. So if you're hand stitching, I highly recommend making the holes first. For one, you'll actually get the shape that you want to hand stitch, which is always good. And then also, I find it to be really difficult if you've got one of those fat needles. Even if you have a thin needle, that would hurt your fingers. But if you have one of those fat needles, to get it through paper in an easy way without like totally messing up your the paper that you're stitching into. I mean, I've tried to do it before where I like do it, like draw it out there and then like pop the holes as I'm going with the needle. But oh my gosh, that's such a pain in the neck, and I end up having my background, my paper, like being all wrinkly and maybe even like finger smudges on it and stuff like that. It's just terrible. It's so much easier to go ahead and get the holes ready, pierce them, pierce your shape, and then stitch from there. So the needle I have is a pretty fat needle, but it works great for floss. It's so easy to like get it on there, to get it in the hole, and you can keep your floss then really thick. You don't have to make it all thin. So while I did this, it was like 30 minutes of stitching all of these hearts, which seems like a terribly long time. And I did not waste y'all's time by leaving all that in the video. So once I get this first one kind of, untangled, which I did tangle it up a bunch, get this going, I'm just gonna skip until the very end so that you don't have to sit there and watch me do this for forever. You guys kind of got the idea, of how to do the stitching. So I don't hand stitch very often. I like the look of it, but it's just a lot of work. And this page took me over an hour to do because of this 30 minutes worth of stitching. And so therefore I'm not like I like to get going faster than that. But I do love the way that it came out. So there's my stitched background. I've got my photo. I'm going to go ahead and get that down in just a minute, but of course I have to add some extra color to the page, so I am using the blue watercolor paint from the color kit this month, just to add just some flecks of color into the back. You know, that's one of my favorite things to do. I feel like it kind of breaks up the white, and while I love looking at people's pages that are just this nice clean white background with nothing on it, every time I try to do one of those myself, it just never comes out right, and I feel like something's missing. So just gonna continue on in my little way to do things. I'm gonna go ahead and get my photo here down because I get to start embellishing this page. So I'm gonna start with these rub-ons. This one actually says you and me, and you really can't see it very well in the video. I don't even know if you can actually see it very well in the photo either, because it's kind of like a cream on white. I thought it would look pretty good, but I was kind of disappointed because the rub-ons wouldn't rub on real well, and so I went back, did it a second time, and when I pulled it off, it still had a bunch of it that was stuck on the plastic piece and not on my paper. So I was just kind of like, oh well, I'm not going to make a huge deal out of that. I also loved this little piece that says I love you to the moon and back. I thought that was cute, and I love these acrylic words. These are so cool, and I wish we had many, many more than what we got in the kits, because I would use these on just about every layout. I think they're so cool. What I had done while the background was drying, after I had put the ink on it, or put the paint on it, is I had pulled out all the little hearts out of the different little die cut pieces that came in all the kits. And so I'm just going to go ahead and embellish all my little frames with these little heart die cut pieces. I think these are great, and they look great over my stitched hearts, just kind of layering them all together. It's a cute, fun little look, and you know, hearts is my favorite shape. I also pulled out these little colored acrylic shapes that were hearts too, that also came in the kits, and I'm adding those. So I'm basically draining my kits of every heart that came in it. But, you know, it's all good. I don't really mind, and I'll just have to come up with a new embellishment for future pages with this kit, or I'm going to have to hand cut some hearts, because I have pretty much used them up. So I'm just going to add my title. The title is This Girl. I'm going to use these little mini alphas. I really do love these that came with the kits. And I'm basically, my journaling ends up just being a list of all the things that I think she is, which basically sums up that I think she's awesome. So I'm just going to add my title right now. Surprisingly, I did not stitch this title down. I'm hoping that the letter stickers stick on well enough that I don't have to worry about it, although I have been considering going back after the fact and going ahead and stitching it down, just because I really don't like losing my title. I added her initials, of course, and then I am going to go back and add in some of the heart puffy stickers. Anything that's got hearts in this kit, I'm going to go ahead and use, which I love. So just add those up. But otherwise, like, this page is super simple. Not any big deal. The stitching is really, really cool. And I just, you know, hearts are amazing. So whatever, you know. I wonder, like, it's funny because here lately, I feel like I haven't had a lot of stories to tell, so I'm kind of slipping back into an old routine of my journaling, I guess not being super meaningful, but luckily the girls like knowing that I love them enough that hopefully this journaling will be good enough for them when they go back and look at these pages later on. I mean, not everything is always going to be like to the depths of meaning, right? I mean, sometimes we scrapbook for ourselves, but even when our greatest hope is that our kids or family or whatever come out with some sort of, you know, great feeling or knowledge of what happened in their lives, it sometimes doesn't happen, right? But there you go, guys. There's my page, the stitching and all the little details. If you have any questions, you know, you can always leave them for me in the comment section of this video. I'll be happy to get back with you. Otherwise, you can always find me creatively on Instagram at Corrie J Creative. Thanks for stopping by.